Welcome to part 3 of our workshop. In the previous video, we talked about how organization and the use of suprasegmentals can help you sound more confident. In this part 3, we will discuss 2 more language issues. Issue number 3 is hedging. This can be a good strategy when you're being cautious, when you're being careful about what you're saying. Some examples of hedging are phrases like, it seems, we assume, it could be the case that, or words like sometimes, probably, possibly, or modal verbs like might or could. These are all very helpful. However, when you overuse these strategies and you end up over-hedging, this can make you sound very unsure about what you're saying, and it minimizes what you're saying and it minimizes you. Let's look at a few examples and decide, are these good uses of hedging or are these minimizing the message and the speaker? If I say studies seem to indicate something, even though I'm using seem to, which is a hedge, this is not really about you or about your message. You're talking about studies, you're talking about what someone else has done, and you're trying to summarize a large quantity of studies. So in this case, it's appropriate to say seem to. It's a good hedge. On the other hand, if I start something by saying, well, I'm no expert, I could be wrong, but this is minimizing you and minimizing your expertise. Of course, sometimes you are no expert in what you're saying, but instead of saying I'm no expert, but you can say experts believe that. But also consider, are you really no expert, or are you just saying that to be too careful? Here's another one that we can see in academic papers or in presentations. This factor almost certainly plays a role. Even though almost certainly might be a bit too much, instead of almost certainly you could say probably, it's still an okay hedge and you're not minimizing yourself too much. Some people have a tendency to use, does that make sense, a lot? This can serve the purpose of connecting with your audience, establishing rapport, and making sure everybody is on the same page as you are. But does that make sense? You are assuming here that what you're saying does not make any sense at all. This is a heavy minimizer. What can you replace that with? How about, are you with me? Instead of, does that make sense? And how about using, I think, I believe, I feel, and in my opinion all the time? Of course, you're going to be able to express your opinion, and it is your opinion. But overusing this is going to make it look like everything is your opinion and everything is just a thought or a belief. How about instead of these, saying something like, I am confident that this is true. I am convinced that this is the best course of action. I am optimistic that this is going to be helpful. And how about saying, I don't know? Here's another one to be careful with. You don't want to say something that you really don't know just for the sake of saying something. It's okay to say, I don't know, when you don't know. But be careful about not using I don't know all the time, or beginning every sentence with, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, but this could be something. So in a way, what you want to do is minimize minimizers. Expressions like just, actually, kinda, sorta, almost, maybe, when they happen all the time, can really put you down. Also, starting everything with apologies. Oh, I'm sorry, but I wasn't very well prepared. I'm sorry if this is not clear. Apologize for what's really your fault. Don't apologize for things that you can't control or things that are not your fault. Another minimizer that happens a lot is just thinking off the top of my head here, but there's no need to say you're just thinking off the top of your head here. If you have an opinion, say your opinion. You don't have to justify it by saying just thinking off the top of your head. Just say it. Our fourth and last issue for this workshop is accuracy. When we talk about accuracy in language, a lot of times people think of correctness, and the first thing that comes to mind is grammar. Here we're not necessarily talking about grammar itself, especially not grammar in a prescriptive sense of do not split infinitives and rules like that. Here, we're talking more about what are your audience's expectations for your grammar. Are you talking to an audience that's going to expect whom, or are you talking to an audience that's going to expect clarity and going direct to the point? Your audience might also be expecting a certain level of formality. If you're too formal, you can come across as insecure and using formality to shield yourself. On the other hand, if you're too informal, people might not take you seriously. So what is your audience expecting from you? How polite do you need to be? This is particularly true if you're not a native speaker of the language that you're using in your presentation. In that sense, grammar and pronunciation in particular can stand out and can hurt your credibility. So using the kind of grammar and pronunciation that your audience is expecting can really work towards your credibility and can demonstrate a certain attention to detail that is very important to some audiences. Also, think about if you're going to worry so much about your accuracy that it's going to affect your fluency. In other words, if trying to speak correctly means you're going to have to stop and rethink and rephrase all the time, this is going to have a stronger effect on your credibility and on your confidence than if you make a few mistakes along the way. What is the right balance that's going to work for you? Finally, think about precise vocabulary. If everything you say is about things or stuff or something like that, this is not going to work well for you. Think about what's the vocabulary you need to say exactly what you want to say. Think about it in advance. Plan it. Going back to organization, plan very carefully what's the kind of vocabulary you're going to need to convey your message as clearly and concisely as possible.